When you buy a game called Mafia, you have certain basic expectations. You expect that you're going to be playing as a criminal who works for the Mafia, right? Not necessarily. What the fuck is this shit? Oh. The first level of the game is a linear scripted fucking World War II shooter with Gears of War cover system and the Gears of War fucking weapon selection system completely identical to it. And by completely identical, I do mean completely identical. The 4 weapon slots thing that you select by using the D-pad on the controller. Thing is, I'm playing Mafia 2 on the PC with keyboard and mouse, not a 360 pad. 1 through 4 keys are used to cycle through the weapons. Problem is, you still have this console box pop up when you do it. Why does 1 correspond to the left box and not the top box? Why have this completely arbitrary bullshit? Why not take an extra day to change the weapon interface for the PC platform? Laziness. That is what perfectly describes this game. It's hard to imagine that it was actually in development for 4 years. There was not a single unique, creative, or original idea in this game. It's a mishmash of ideas taken from successful films and games, with the end result being complete and utter mediocrity. Mafia 2 is a completely linear game, despite taking place in a large world. Now, I don't have anything against that. Not everything has to be a sandbox like Grand Theft Auto and Saints Row. There's nothing wrong with having a structured level system like The Getaway, LA Noire, and Prototype have. The problem is, those games are developed with that framework in mind. Mafia 2 isn't. Let's talk about Mafia 2's poor excuse of the story. It feels like the developers simply skimmed through the plot summaries of the Godfather films on Wikipedia and decided to just copy that. I can just imagine them brainstorming. Oh hey, look! Pacino's character was a World War II hero. Let's make the first level of our game a shitty war section. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. Marlon Brando's character was called Vito. Let's call our protagonist Vito. Remember that obnoxious loudmouth Sonny? Let's make that guy Vito's best friend. Oh, that's awesome. We'll sell billions. Do it.
You disgusting pig.
Oh, here's a good one. Hey, do you know the difference between sex and conversation? No? You want to go back to my place and talk?
You got problems, you know that?
Characters are introduced and then completely forgotten about. I'm told by Joe that I should remain close with these guys because they'll always have good work from me. Every time I stop by their place, I'm told, "Sorry, kid, got nothing for you today." So what the fuck is the point of even having them here in the first place? Also, why the fuck does this guy pay me to wreck cars? I don't get it. It's not like a single thing can be salvaged from this wreck. Mafia 2 has no real story, aside from the last 3 or 4 levels. Every single level is identical in its structure. Wake up, call Joe, pick up Joe, drive to mission, kill people, drop Joe off, go home, go the fuck to sleep. You do these missions simply for money, no other reason. The problem is that you have nothing to spend that money on. It's a linear game. Sure, you can buy food and alcohol to restore your health, just like it does in real life, and some outfits, but that's about it, that's it. You don't need to buy guns or ammo because enemies drop endless supplies of them, so essentially your rewards are useless. The Getaway works as a linear game. You're a criminal going straight, but the underworld doesn't like it, so they kill your wife, frame you for it, and kidnap your kid. You want to see your kid alive? You gotta do their jobs. Every level puts you closer to your goal of vengeance. LA Noire works too, because you progress from department to department, while also having a main story, which does take a bit to get rolling, but in the end is very satisfying. Mafia 2, as I said, doesn't really have a main story aside from the last few levels. Vito's sole motivation for going into a life of crime is, pretty much, my dad was a working man. He worked on the docks. It was a bad job. And he became an alcoholic, spending most of his money on booze. I don't want to end up like my old man.
He gives me every week.
I know lots of people who pay well for risky jobs. So
And that's it.
I'm sure
That's
I can
it.
line
That's
something
his
up for
sole
my
reason.
oldest friend.
I want
The
money,
working
but I don't
man's
want
a
to work
sucker,
for it,
that's
so
for
I'm
damn
going to
sure.
join the
You
Mafia.
said it.
Yeah, so you end up
Okay,
making
step
money,
one.
quite a
I
lot
gotta
of money,
introduce you to Giuseppe,
and you have
so pick
absolutely
up them
nothing to
disc guys,
spend
baby.
it on.
Let's go.
Oh. The game caters to a sandbox model. It's practically asking for it. But hell, it even fucking punishes you for not sticking to the mission, with retarded checkpoints and no real saves. In one mission, we killed some street gang and we were gonna sell their cars for money. The checkpoint is you getting into that car that you're gonna sell. The docks, where you're gonna have to sell them, are on the complete other side of the map. So I drove there, sold the car, got my money. And on the way to give the money to a guy I owed it to, decided to stop by a clothing store and buy a nice suit. I also decided to rob the same store to get my money back. Unfortunately, the security had shotguns, so I died immediately. Where did the game place me? Back to me getting in the fucking car. Are you fucking kidding me? You couldn't have saved it after I was done selling it? What the fuck is wrong with you, you dumbass developers? So you can just imagine how fun this shit is when you somehow get killed by a stray bullet. The combat is clunky and bad. You have regenerating health, but it doesn't regenerate you fully. You also can't shoot out of your car. Some idiot fanboy on a forum wrote, "It's like this on purpose because that's not how gangsters fought back then." Are you fucking serious, or are you mentally retarded? How fucking stupid do you have to be to say something like that as a defense? I guess that explains the radar too, right? I mean, the radar system doesn't tell you if an enemy is above you or below you, which constantly fucks you up. I guess these non-existent radars weren't as advanced back in the 40s and 50s. And why does someone need to shout out asshole every 5 seconds during firefights? Holy shit, is it annoying. This is an M-rated game. Why can't you say shit, fuck, or cocksucker? Why do I have to hear, "I'm coming for ya, asshole," all the goddamn time? The driving is also very clunky, but it was done like that on purpose to simulate the handling of these old-ass cars, which is kind of neat. For some dumbass reason, they also thought it would be nice if you got police attention by simply going over the speed limit. The hilarious thing is, if you're going fast as fuck, but you're not hitting the accelerate button, like if you're going down a hill and you're like going at 80 miles per hour, nothing happens. They don't care. It's only if you're actually pushing the accelerate pedal. So yeah. And like this thing pretty much either forces you to abide by the slow speed limit, which, you know, pads the length of the game out by driving slowly, and you're getting bored to tears. I simply just don't give a fuck. And here's a video on how you can escape from all the cops in the game. Absolutely brilliant programming. The voice acting is probably the game's strongest point. It's terrific and the dialogue is really good too. They also licensed music from the period to give it a nice, authentic touch.
How'd you like the place, Vito? A lot better than playing hide this Zeech in the showers, huh?
Graphically, it's decent. It doesn't come anywhere close to Grand Theft Auto 4, but it's still pleasant to the eyes. The aesthetic is nice, despite the fact the textures aren't all that detailed. There are two big issues, however. One of them is anti-aliasing. It's only on or off. There is no 2x, 4x, 8x, etc. This is a problem. Most of the cars have a round shape on top. And even with anti-aliasing on, you'll see lots and lots of jaggies on what is supposed to be a perfectly smooth surface. The other problem is LOD, which is level of detail, and this you can't change. Look at the red parked car in this clip, and watch as I get closer to it, a blue car magically appears in front of it. The LOD here is really bad. It's immersion breaking as far as I'm concerned. It's difficult to get immersed into a game's world when you have shit appearing out of nowhere right in front of you. It also gets in the way of gameplay, especially during chases, where you're going at really high speeds, and all of a sudden you have cars and trees appearing in places where you didn't expect them to. Mafia II is one of the few games out there to utilize NVIDIA's proprietary unoptimized software called PhysX. I currently have an AMD 6970, but I still have my old GTS 250 lying around. I decided to put it into my machine as a PhysX card. After beating this game, I promptly took it out. Batman is seriously the only game out there that is worth it with PhysX. The most amount of PhysX that you'll see in Mafia II is in the benchmark. That's pretty sad. It's not gameplay enhancing in any shape and form. All it does is simply create more particles and debris during firefights. While it is kind of cool looking, you're only going to see it in probably 3 of the game levels. And those are the ones that have firefights indoors, and that's about it. What a fucking waste. There is no way this should be an NVIDIA exclusive feature. Just go look at destruction clips of Red Faction Guerrilla. You can take down entire skyscrapers in that game, with tons of debris and pieces coming off of it. PhysX should be dead. PhysX can be pretty over the top in here too sometimes, like it is in most games. Basically, the amount of debris and particles that it creates from destruction is way more than the original thing had. Imagine breaking a mirror and have it shatter into 1,000 pieces. Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous. In Metro 2033, you can shoot wooden crates that don't break, but, you know, keep, like, putting out these wood particles. And you could, like, shoot it endlessly, and you can have so many pieces of wood on the floor that was way more than the amount that was used into producing the crate. It's exactly the same thing in Mafia II. PhysX is also applied to character clothing. It's pretty neat, despite an odd animation every now and then, and it makes you feel that you're actually wearing something instead of having stuff glued to you. There is a problem, though. PhysX is applied to everyone, not just to you and other important characters to the game, but to every single civilian out there. Look at the women's skirts in this clip, and notice how the skirt is reacting to the motions of their legs. It's barely noticeable, but because everyone has this, it completely tanks the frame rate and makes it barely playable, even on a single GTX 480. There is a solution though, and I'll post a guide to a site in the video's description. You can individually delete PhysX files, so I deleted all the clothing for the NPCs. I left in the particles and the clothing for the story characters. This solved all performance issues while retaining all the noticeable eye candy. The author of this guide is pretty much a PhysX fanboy, so I'd ignore his subjective immersion and gameplay enhancing ratings and all that other useless bullshit. But this really makes one wonder, if they had the money and the time to implement this PC exclusive PhysX feature, why the fuck couldn't they have included proper anti-aliasing, level of detail settings, and a reskin weapons UI that doesn't make it look like I'm fucking playing this with a D-pad? They sure know how to milk fanboys for cash though, with their DLC. Month after release, we see a ton of car and outfit packs. The base game has very few outfits and barely any cars. It's one of the reasons it's so fucking boring. You're driving 70% of the time, and most of the cars are ugly and slow. The convertibles are pretty much the only cars worth using, but they're pretty rare to come by. I sure I'm not spending a dime on content that should have been in the base game to begin with. Seriously, if the majority of your game has you driving, you better put in some good fucking vehicles. Or at the very least, remove the filler material. Remember how I said every level has you wake up, get phone call from Joe, go pick Joe up, etc.? Why not have the level start with me already with Joe, and have the mission end when the mission ends, instead of having me go to my apartment and go to sleep? All this does is pad the length out, which is somewhere between 12 to 15 hours. That's a pretty good length for a linear game, but I prefer quality over quantity, and this game has little of it. The other DLC packs are garbage too. They're both story content, and I say story loosely. They have little to no voice acting and cutscenes. The stuff you do is identical to what you do in the base game, only this time around it's all text and you're playing as a different character. Great. Take my money. Please. You've definitely earned it. There are other minor issues as well that I feel is comical to bring up. One of them is mobsters talking about the stuff they do in public. Some of your mission briefings are in restaurants. The guy is telling you to kill someone in front of a waiter. Really? Hey Vito, I need to go down and kill Benny the Gooch. He's betrayed us. And waiter, this is a great fucking steak. The other one is water. Oh yes, water. I really don't need to say anything. Well, to be honest, I really don't know what to say, so I'm not going to bother. Just watch the next few bits, and you'll see what I mean. The amount of laziness here is beyond words. I'm speechless. Just watch.
Radio. This is Rockin' Ricky Fox, and hands off those TVs.
Oh, and there's Playboy collectibles in this game. You can collect hidden Playboy magazines and view the Playmate of the Month whenever you pick them up. This was actually controversial on release, which is hilarious. Oh, think of the children! Please, this is a game designed and marketed towards adults, not little kids. It's like telling every movie producer and director to make every single film G-rated. If a kid really wanted to look at nudes, he'd simply Google them. Hell, there's enough weirdos who upload their own dicks to fucking Wikipedia. Hey honey, can you suck at my penis while I take pictures? It's purely for educational purposes. Seriously, it's for the enrichment of humanity. And the stuff here is actually rather tasteful. I mean, this is all shit from the 60s. It's not like it's a goddamn bukkake fest. I've seen more pornographic shit in fucking art museums. You know, which is supposed to be artistic. God. I do have problems with these mags, though, don't get me wrong. I mean, Mafia II takes place from the 40s to 1951. Playboy wasn't great until 1953. And all the Playmate photos here are all from the 60s. You know, it's pretty anachronistic. Not only that, but you find them in mission locations, you know, in the middle of a bloodbath. Like, what the hell? Hey, Tony, can you stop it with a shotgun for a few minutes? I want to jack off for a little bit. Like, I mean, it's just... It's... it doesn't fit. Why is it doing here? Like, oh, it's stupid. Mafia 2's biggest gripe is that it's repetitive and boring. Every level is almost exactly the same. Joe has an idea on how to make money, or a guy from the Mafia has a job for you. It always sounds too good to be true, and guess what? It always is. How Vito is stupid enough to believe this shit every single time is beyond me. Even doing something as simple as selling cartons of cigarettes is going to result in a fucking bloodbath. Do this 15 times over and congratulations, you have beaten the game. Mafia 2 only starts to get interesting the moment it ends. The last few levels, where there's actually a cohesive story, are done pretty well. But at that point, it's just so far in that it really isn't worth it. If you're curious, pick it up for $5 during a Steam sale, and not a penny more. It's not worth it. If you like this video, like it, subscribe, leave a comment.